Hello again, and welcome to my house. Thanks again for checking out past episodes of Professor Draculastein's Midnight Horror Picture Film Review Show on Basket Case and Headless. I was gearing up to do a short analysis of John Carpenter's The Fog, which is still coming, but I recently watched X, and it got me to thinking, as good movies often do. Without any further ado, let's head to the archive to pull this steamy stack. Oh, Pat, go fetch your bedtime stories. There's a lot going on in Ty West's X. It's one of those films you can't just take at surface value. The more you consider what is placed before you, the more there is to see. On the surface, you're watching a slasher film of likely victims under the knife of unlikely killers. For some, this is enough to meet their expectations of a quirky horror flick, which we already know Mr. West is more than capable of pulling off if you've seen The House of the Devil, a perfect horror movie in every classic way. But look again, and you see he has something to tell us through the sex and gore. Your first hint is that this movie is about making movies, so right away you can expect he's setting us up with a meta message. Are they making a porno movie, or is this cinema? Adult film or dirty picture? And are we watching just another slasher flick, or is there commentary here, horror or art? And does it matter which perspective you take? In the end, no matter how you view it, you're watching the same thing. The only thing that changes is how the viewer chooses to experience it, and the expectations placed upon it, no matter what the intention is behind the media, which I suppose holds the potential to completely alter the outcome. As we see in the making of the film within the film, multiple and contrasting intentions go into making a movie, even smut. It is only the relativity of morals that seem to distinguish the art from the pornography. But what is the actual difference? Neither is real, and both are created imitations of life. More importantly, who cares? Well, I guess RJ cares, which juxtaposes this seemingly minor character with his acquaintances, driving a big part of the messages of this movie. But what actually gives one type of film the added value, or X factor, over another? What does she have that I don't? The answer is absolutely nothing, but what we are told. If a film plays at Cannes Film Festival, it is art. If it direct streams to Pornhub, it is sleaze. If she's a young mod, she has it. If she's an old hag, she doesn't. Again, meeting the expectations of what is dictated. I love the not-so-subtle 70s porno tropes that West uses to propel his art-imitating life, life-imitating art idea. Each cast member is a cliché, not just in the making of The Farmer's Daughters, but in who they present as people. The church mouse, the prude, the big-shot Texan, the blonde stripper, the well-endowed, smooth-talking black dude, and the California dreamin' pastor's daughter. The only characters that aren't tropes are Pearl and Howard. Unlikely killers and equally unlikely sex symbols, but why not? Ty West is playing with their expectations of these characters and how he would judge them at face value, just as these characters are subjected to the perceptions of each other. He even plays with our expectations of 1979 by reducing it mostly to cocaine, nipples, and Fleetwood Mac. He meets our presumptions, but undercuts them with what we expect life, dreams, and aging to be all about. He does this without presenting the continuum of life, but through symmetrical dualities. It is in reading between those lines we find the threads that connect these extremes. The only presence this continuum has on screen is through the passage of 24 hours. We're losing light. Time passes no matter what, and everyone ages with each dawn and dusk. It's the decisions we make within that time that determine the outcome and whether or not that outcome meets our expectations of living our authentic life. It is when we fail to serve those needs that our regret eventually articulates in extremes. This is put on full, overwhelmingly tragic display in Pearl's case. A suppression and neglect of impulse has led to sunset years of total depravity, taking what she has not been able to receive. I guess the other way this continuum can be read is through the ages of the characters themselves, from young adult to 45-year-old Wayne, into the quite elderly and seemingly decrepit. What changes along the spectrum is the transition of morals from something pure and suppressed, as depicted in Lorraine and what we learn was Maxine's youth, to open but justified as seen in the amateur pornographers, to a complete loss of compass as portrayed by Pearl and the control she exerts over her ailing husband. West gives us the black and white, night and day contrast because it's easy to read and buy into. But it begs the acknowledgement that these dualities are connected, as well as the question, how do we get from one to the other? More arguably, is Maxine destined to turn out as the mournful Mia Goth in Pearl makeup? I would consider that she is. The only time she bolsters her ego is when she's high on coke, an affliction she keeps hidden, just as Pearl keeps her exploits shrouded by night and in the dark of her basement. Maxine isn't living the life she deserves, but is acting out in retaliation of the oppressive life she once had. She doesn't even really want to be doing porn, but aspires to Hollywood attention and cosmopolitan tastes. Yet her actions don't entirely align with these values. I'm not saying there's anything at all wrong with sex work, but in Maxine's case, this isn't exactly the life she wants, and her addiction is bound to drive her into a future she would not expect for herself. I guess it was Christianity that set these conflicting expectations in motion ages ago. Virtue over sin, divinity over animal, suppression over freedom. We have seen this play out in actual real time with the Roe versus Wade turnover in the US. The trauma that self-righteous religious morals have inflicted even in this day and age is fucking scary. Christianity is the ultimate possessor and villain of our fate, in all its dictating tyranny. Ty West's X gets straight A's for demonstrating that horror is the perfect vehicle for thesis, and belongs on the screens of mucky-muck film festivals abroad. The US Supreme Court, however, receives a dropout fail from the School of Draculastein and a one-way ticket to Guantanamo Bay for being absolute nation-spanning villains. Check out X and the House of the Devil for some tasty film. Oh, and protect abortion rights and fuck Christianity wherever you may reside. Thanks for watching, and until next time, sweet screams.